The SOPL position that really is paying attention from the land management plan objectives to, what the tactics are to be able to meet those. The integration of the SOPL into a team environment is like any team. If you're coming in from the outside, you need to figure out your role and how you interact the best. But the skills that the SOPL can provide to an incident management team is that broader picture in many ways. I think of it as the SOPL is thinking, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks out, when usually a team for managing an incident is 24-48, and that's their time horizon typically. As a SOPL plugs into an incident, they should be the one in concert with the IC, the plans, and the operation that are thinking, okay, we're looking 12, 24, 48, but how does that meet our overall, 2 week, 3 week overall goals? Do they mesh with that or not? Do we need to adjust our short-term tactics to meet our long-term goal? So the role of the SOPL in that situation is to think longer term. Think longer term in the concept of the objectives, and are we going that way with the tactics we're doing in the 12 and 24? In the ideal environment, that in many ways the tactical or 1630 briefing that they're doing in an operational sense, the SOPL is the one that right before the IC, when you go through the plans, say, okay, how does our short-term tactics and plans fit in for our long-term goals? And they should have a little bit of perspective to say, okay, we know we're going to be dealing with this for X amount of weeks, and the tactics we're doing tomorrow are going to fit with our strategy for the next umpteen weeks, or they're not, and give some perspective. And, you always, I can support the plan, but that is a great role for the SOPL to play. It's almost like a reality check. They should have the knowledge and information on both objectives, climate of the fire, and potential based on the analysis they do to add that into that planning section. So that is in the best world, and I've seen that work really well, especially when the team is able to take that input and apply that into their short-term planning implementation. The thing that I think that the SOPL position may probably won't go away for a while is we don't have an organizational role in the structure that allows that sort of perspective to bring those pieces in together and also be able to reach out and grab the technical abilities that are evident that are needed to plug into that situation. Everybody is pretty well role defined and they're working really well doing what they do, but sometimes that perspective is lost from either the long duration or the objectives itself. And the SOPL position can do some of that. Most teams don't want to deal with WFDIS. Most agency administrators, that's their job to do that. But it can end up being, if they're two separate documents and two separate thought processes, one can get out ahead or behind of the other one, and unless they're integrated together through either a position or some standard briefings between the two, the SOPL can be that link between the agency administrator and the team. On the other hand, they don't have to be. It's a position that's, the reason I like the position is it can do lots of different things depending on the situation. If your agency administrator and the incident commander are hand in glove on what they're trying to accomplish on that incident, then the SOPL can help determine some analytical tools, whether their decision has a high probability of success or a low probability of success using WFDIS or doing long-term plans, etc. So it can be dynamic too. Nowadays, to be effective, you need to understand WFDIS and probably even more the side of the decision section more than the analytical, because in some ways you can hire folks as LTANs and FBANs to look at your FS Pro runs, but to understand what an objective is, a strategic objective, and how that was articulated into an incident objective and what the agency administrator meant by that, and then help the team or the incident employ that, that's a critical skill to be able to maintain and identify. As part of that is, the communication aspect of doing those things. As we read somebody else's work or their intent, you get a portion of what they need, but sitting down with them and talking, well, what do you really think about allowing natural fire to play its role? Well, how important is that to you? And being able to convey that intent back to the team if they're not talking, but also in the analysis, if the SOPL is managing a long duration analysis team or a group of folks, they can focus their analysis more on what the real question is from the agency administrator too. So being able to understand what that intent is important. Well, there's a portion of organizational skills, and I got to admit that's the worst thing I am about being a SOPL, is to be able to organize either a group that's working for you or you're working with, whether it's under a plan section on a team or if you're putting together a long-term plan inside a WIFDIS. You've got to organize the workload so you can be efficient about it. The old days we used to have 7 days to do a stage 3 implementation plan. Well, we have tools now where we can get that stuff done a lot quicker. It can also be done quicker in its junk. So you've got to organize yourself to be able to hit the high priority, high consequence information to keep the whole system working as well as it can. I think the biggest thing for a SOPL, or the thing I enjoy about it, is having the broader perspective. To, an incident commander, an operations section, they are looking at a certain portion of things. The agency administrator is looking at theirs, but the perspective of what both of them are dealing with and trying to integrate them to highlight the factors that the agency administrator may not have articulated to the team and what the team is dealing with that's not articulated to the agency administrator, and how that goes towards or against their stated objectives. That perspective is a lot of fun if you get to the point where you can see all of those moving parts going on and see where there are problems or things falling off the table and help identify those. And try to get out in front of it a little bit more with some of the skills we can provide with LTANs and et cetera. That's the fun part.